and we're talking about why I don't eat raw, why I don't juice, and why I don't use essential oils. I don't eat raw food, I don't juice, and I don't use essential oils. And so I want to tell you why. Because I think this will blow your mind, and this will change the way you nourish yourself and you nourish your family. Because there's this whole, like, everyone thinks eating raw is the best, and it'll just make you skinny, and you know why? It's because it's not nourishing you. If you eat raw food, our body can't digest those cell walls. The cell walls of a plant they're so hard, they're so strong that we can't digest them. So when you eat raw foods, you're not really getting any nutrients out of those foods. Does that mean I don't eat raw at all? Like I wouldn't even eat this apple? Not really. But I know that the apple's not going to nourish me totally because I can't break down those cell walls with just my stomach alone, or those stomach acids or anything. I cook everything. So if I want to nourish my body, there's 5 ways you could break down a cell wall of a plant. 5 ways. And that is fermenting it, like putting it either to ferment it like kimchi or sauerkraut, or putting some vinegar in it. My mother-in-law made me this awesome opal basil and apple cider vinegar, and this is so good to put on a salad. So fermenting, you could break down the cell wall and you could get everything, all those nutrients out of the plants. If you freeze something, the freezing process breaks down the cell walls of a plant, so you could freeze it to break down those cell walls. If you eat something that has been frozen, you're going to get all the nutrients out of that food. If you cook it, heating breaks the cell wall. You know, when you heat something, when you heat vegetables, they deflate a little bit. That's because their cell walls are breaking. What else does it? So we have fermenting, we have freezing, we have cooking, and we have oiling. If you put oil on something, do you ever put oil on your salad and the salad kind of deflates a little bit? The oil breaks down the cell walls. So you always want to oil your salad. Don't use salad dressing that is fat-free. First of all, there's lots of junk in that stuff and really gross. Use some really good olive oil, put it on, and then let it sit for a little while before you eat it. Break down all those cell walls, and you're going to get all the nutrients out of those vegetables. And I know that you haven't heard this before, Nicole. I know this is the thing, is this information is not out there. There's all this information about raw food, but it's not good for us. It doesn't sustain us and it doesn't nurture us. You need to do one of these 5 things to your food. Ferment it, cook it, freeze it, oil it, and the last one is dry it. So if you dry your food, it breaks down the cell wall. You have to break down the cell wall before you eat anything. And this is the reason that I don't juice either. I don't juice because you need the fiber, right? So yes, I will eat an apple sometimes just because I enjoy it, but I know I need to get more nutrients in my day, right? I need to bring more stuff into my day, or I could cook this apple and it would be really good for me. Don't put sugar on it, but if you cook that apple, or you put all the apples in the crock pot and you make awesome applesauce, you're going to get so much more out of that apple than if you eat it raw. So if you're juicing, if you believe all this stuff online about juicing, so the juicing, you're breaking down so a fruit or a vegetable, and you're taking just the juice out of it, which is just the sugar. So it's like you're just taking the sugar in and not the fiber, and the fiber is the thing that digests the sugar. So why are we leaving out like a whole food that nature gave us, this whole beautiful apple? And nature gave us this beautiful apple, and we put it in our juicer, and then we get the sugar from the apple, and we leave out all the good fiber that's so good for our heart. It's good for our veins and our arteries, and it's really good for digestion, right? That fiber. And so if you are juicing, that's why you feel so good after you juice, because it's a sugar high. It's just a sugar rush. And you feel that energy, and it feels vital. You feel that vitality. Well, it's just sugar. You could get that same kind of feeling anytime you eat sugar. But if you eat your fruits and your vegetables as whole pieces, you get that fiber to help you digest that sugar. And you might not get so much of a rush, but it's better for you in the long run. You wouldn't come down off it too. What do you do when you juice the whole fruit and veggie in a blender? Okay, so that's not juicing, right? So that's blending. So when you blend your fruit in a blender, you're not breaking the cell walls. So it's like taking a sword and putting it through a whole room of marbles. If you take a sword and you put it through a whole room of marbles, you're not breaking any of those marbles. That's what a blender does. So if you blend your fruits and vegetables, at least you're having your fiber with your sugar, right? So you're not juicing. Juicing just takes the juice out. It's a different machine. Blending leaves the fiber in, so at least you have the fiber to digest the juice. But you're still not breaking down the cell walls unless you put some oil in there or use frozen fruit in there. But I never blend greens. I never blend greens because greens have a lot of bacteria on them. And if you blend greens in your blender like kale, I always cook my kale. I eat a lot of kale, but I never blend it. I cook it. This is Crock-Pot Moms. I'm a mom. This is my crock-pot. I'm going to cook my kale because I'm going to get all those nutrients out of the kale if I cook it. If I put it in my blender, then the bacteria that's could be on the kale is multiplied and given sugar to eat, to multiply even more and multiply even more. And a lot of people don't know this. If they're blending and eating those green smoothies and stuff, sometimes they get sick, but they think it's like cleansing or they think it's like a detox and that's why they're sick. They're sick because of the bacteria. So don't blend your greens, cook them and cook them in oil, even better. Olive oil is so good for you. Recap. We got why you don't eat raw foods, because you want to get the nutrients out of it. You want to break down those cell walls. You need to freeze it. You need to dry it. You need to oil it, ferment it, or cook it. The easiest way, cook it, right? So, you know, put your meat and all your veggies in there and some nice liquid stock or whatever, and voila, you get so much more nutrients out of your food, and you'll eat less of it and eat whole and eat awesome. So the last thing I wanted to mention is essential oils. And I used to be an essential oil person, and I know a lot of people are. And this information, I don't know why, but it's not out there. But essential oils are very strong antibiotics, and they kill your gut bacteria. You know that good gut flora that everyone's talking about? Get that gut flora up. That's why we're eating all this kimchi and we're eating all this kefir, and we're, you know, trying to build our gut bacteria. As you know, I'm a therapist. Like, I talk about anxiety, I talk about depression, and we have so much issues with our mood. We have so much issues with inflammation and so many problems nowadays. And a lot of people are turning to essential oils, and I did for a moment. Then I realized that essential oils break down that gut bacteria, really destroy your gut bacteria, and that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. We need to build our immune system up instead of having so much strong antibiotics around us. How's everybody? Is this interesting? Is the first time you're hearing this? I'm going to blow you away. All right, so we're talking about eating raw. I mean, you could do it for fun. Like, I have carrots sometimes just because they're yummy, but I know I have to eat the rest of the day. I have to eat a lot of cooked vegetables to really get the nutrients that I need out of them. You might be able to get like a little tiny bit, because if a food is already like a little bit past ripe, that's fermented. So you're getting something out of that, so that's okay. But you want to make sure balance. If you're eating raw food, eat it with oil on it, nice olive oil on it, or eat it just to enjoy the crunch and just to have a little fun and just really get close to nature. Also, if you are really concerned about your gut bacteria and really want to build it up, you could eat just raw food right out of your garden, or edible weeds. And I talk about edible weeds in some of my videos on YouTube. If you want to check me out on YouTube, it's Jodi Ammon. I know this is the only place I have my name. Daphne is saying, why won't you get bacteria from eating raw? Well, there's not that much. You want some bacteria, a little bit, right? So you want the good bacteria from the soil, the prebiotics. But if you're eating some greens and there happens to be like E. coli on them, you know how a lot of times the spinach is brought back, or there's different things it's always leafy green vegetables, right, that E. coli is on. That's what's the dangerous bacteria that you don't want to put in your blender. And you may not get contaminated greens, but the risk is higher. So if you're eating some raw, like natural weeds from your garden, you're getting the good bacteria in the soil. But if you're blending them, the risk just goes too high. It's just too much. And sometimes nothing happens, but there's a risk. I see a lot of people who are doing smoothies get sick and they just think they have the flu or something. The oils help my son with asthma. A couple weeks ago, my daughter had a bad cold and started them right away and it was gone within a few days. Yeah, well, cold could go away a few days anyway. But I do use a lot of herbs with my kids when they're sick, but I don't use essential oils anymore. And some people understand the risk with essential oils, but they feel like when they're really sick, it's worth that risk. Just like we take prescription antibiotics sometimes. You know, we know that there's some risk to those things, but we take them when, you know, when they're needed for something serious. And so sometimes people do use essential oils in those kind of cases, but there's alternatives. There's lots of alternatives, and so I don't use them at all anymore at all. I know that's very controversial because people are loving their essential oils and they just live by them and they just love them so much. And so I know that that I'm making people unhappy, but you have to look at your gut. Like, go with your intuition about it. We're mamas, right? Like, we could go with our intuition about what's right for our family. And for me, this makes so much sense. So Jessica, what are your thoughts on other fruit oils, avocado and coconut? Really good. Lots of research says those are really good. Really awesome. If you do eat raw, like say if you have a salad and you put an avocado in it, the oil from the avocado will help you digest that salad. So if you're really liking salad, put some avocado in it or put some nuts in it or use some olive oil with it. I do use coconut oil when I'm cooking my vegetables. Yeah, olive oil or coconut oil, whatever. I do eat avocados. Love them. I eat nuts and seeds. You want to roast them. You got to roast them because they don't want them raw. Now, this is what I want you to eliminate from your diet is nut and seed oils. They inflame, they're inflammatory is what I'm trying to say. Like canola oil. Get it out. Get it out. We don't need any canola oil. So it doesn't, I'm not saying it doesn't work sometimes. I'm saying the risks are really high. And so a lot of allopathic medicine is really awesome and it really helps, but the risks are there too. And the benefits are there. And so you always have to weigh the risks and the benefits with whatever you're doing. Like, yes, I eat apples because I love them. They taste delicious. They're a lot of fun to eat. I just love being connected with nature and eating an apple. So I don't always cook my apples, but I make sure I cook enough food the rest of the day to nourish my body and really take care of myself. Thanks, Nicole, for sharing the video. Okay, thanks everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lisa Marie TV with me, Jodi Amen, telling you something a little crazy, a little controversial, but it's real and it's really important. So look into your intuition, and I will put some links so you can have some scientific evidence, because that's what I'm all about. All right, there's no more questions here. I'm going to sign off. Love you all. I'm Jodi Amen. Talk to you soon.